either. Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. It is our Game Week 23 National League predictions. I do believe I might have said that last week, but I think I am more or less sure it is our Game Week 23 National League predictions. We're also going to be doing our FA Cup predictions for the games that involve National League teams. Before we get on to that, Paul, firstly, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good, Luke. How are you? Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm still buzzing from the weekend. Obviously, Willstone beating Barnet in the last minute. So it's been a good football weekend for me, Luke.
Yeah, to turn things the other way, of course, we conceded in the last minute. So yeah, it was. I love my weekend. I went down to Aldershot. It was kind of off the cuff thing. We ended up staying over down there and having a very good night out in Aldershot with some Aldershot fans as well. You know, to be fair, proper supportive after the game. I was expecting them to take the mick, but they weren't. They were proper supportive. We have got a special guest tonight who is, of course, an Aldershot fan. So we're going to see if I'm still going to like Aldershot after this, after we hear from what he's got to say on Aldershot at the moment. But before we do that, we'll have a quick look at the live chat and then we'll come to our guest. So Joe's coming and he said, announced tonight that Altrincham will have a pitch inspection tomorrow lunchtime. Yeah, it's something that I think a lot of sides are probably going to have. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of games are actually called off this weekend. Would you agree, Paul? I don't know what the weather's like down near you, but it's been snowing up here.
Yeah, it's very cold. I don't think the frost has left the car all day, and it's not looking like it's going to probably go above sort of 1 or 2 degrees by lunchtime on Saturday down here. I've actually got to go and do a pitch inspection for my daughter's game on Saturday morning because I think there's risk that we're going to lose a lot of games. I know some of the Willstone fans on our chat was sort of discussing the fact that could be called off down in Southend. So, yeah, I think we'll see a lot of games go by the wayside at the weekend due to this cold weather. Whether we have snow, I don't know, but it certainly is cold down here.
Joe is in the live stream tonight. He's put yo, and he's also donated 79p. Thank you very much, Joe, for your donation. It's much appreciated. I'll make you a moderator for that when I do get a chance. Paul, Joe's coming.
Also, Alex Whitmore, the filed club captain, has signed for Solihull Moors. He's not played since the 30th of September, so he's played in 8 games this season, 3 from the bench. I saw that today that club captain goes. Solihull need to address some sort of issue with their defence, don't they? So obviously they're looking at this as a possible remedy to that, and we can probably talk about a little bit more about that when we come across the predictions later on.
And then Callum's coming and said evening, and then Mr. Luke is in. Paul.
Hello, gents. Weird to see a Gateshead draw for once. I was so used to winning and losing. Nevertheless, we take what we can. Got woken on Saturday. A win would be nice. No pressure, like always. Yeah, I can't just have a look now. I think I agree a little bit, but I'll talk more about that later. But yes, a rare draw for the Gateshead boys on Saturday.
Stingem, I believe it is in, and he's put a waving sign. Then we've had an Aldershot fan that's come in and put up the shots. And then Ian's also in. Notts County fan who still tunes in. And then Dave's come in, Paul.
Steve, even all, hope you recover from the shots game, Luke. You deserve the point, but I enjoyed the scenes in the East Bank, so can't feel too sorry for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna admit this. To be fair, like I've always rated Aldershot fans. To be fair, but to be fair, to say how poor that game was, I was pretty impressed because they didn't stop singing for the full 90 minutes. To say how poor it was, and the scenes at the end, you don't like it when you see scenes like that from a away perspective because you're like, God. And the whole stadium just erupted, to be honest, when that went in. And it wasn't pleasant from our perspective because we defended so well for the full 90 minutes. It made it an awful game, which was the aim. And unfortunately, we didn't manage to hold out in the end. And the Aldershot fans actually come in and said, who does everyone support? So I believe you've probably been new to the show. Paul, you're a Wealdstone fan, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
And then myself, I'm a Halifax Town fan. We'll have a look at what people have been saying. Someone's put up the Alty. David's in as well tonight. Our Maidenhead fan who tunes in. Harry's in. Lee is in. A Wrexham fan who still tunes in. Joe's come in and said,
"Hey Luke, can we beat Orient? Who is the highest ranked team we have a chance of beating next?" Oh, I don't know. It's a good point. I mean, Chesterfield at this stage must feel like they can beat anybody.
Yeah. Now we're going to come back to the live chat shortly, as I know there's a lot more people who've come in, but we'll do that when we get our guest in. But our guest tonight is an Aldershot vlogger. You'll all be aware of him who do tune into the live streams. Of course, it is Kobe. Kobe, how are you doing?
Mate, you can tell by the smile on my face. I'm absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, you will be, especially because, of course, you managed to defeat us on Saturday in that fashion, but also the FA Cup as well.
Oh, I mean, that FA Cup game alone is a season definer. Just that 7-4. You're 59 minutes into a game and you find yourself 7-0 up against League Two opposition. I mean, that in itself is just memorable for a lifetime. And then that Halifax game is even more signified by the fact that we scored in the 90+14 against Bromley on Tuesday, and then a 98th minute winner against Halifax. Just being at home, as you said, the place erupted, and I haven't been able to stop smiling since because that was insane.
Yeah, to be fair, when I've been looking at Aldershot, of course, they've been a bit of a surprise package. I don't know what your thoughts were in the summer when Cordner left the side, Amaluza left the side. Of course, Effing Young obviously left about this time last year as well. And he felt like you were a bit weak going forward once he left. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not. Just what I thought when I was going into that, it felt like it was going to go either way, and something did need to change in it at Aldershot because it did feel like you were on a bit of a decline. You weren't going anywhere. You were always in a relegation scrap, and I thought everyone thinking this season it's either going to be a season where they go down and they be very poor and underperform, or they're going to do what they have done, maybe not to the same extent, but be up there. Is that something that you agree with, and did you expect this to happen so far?
Yeah, I mean, the feel around pre-season was the fact that we did have an exciting squad, but at the same time, everyone was a bit worried when Tyler left. One of the reasons Tyler left is because he wanted to go to a squad that had ambition, that was going to be in the playoffs, and it is just flipped on its head. York are now scrapping relegation, and Aldershot are flying near the top end of the table. But yeah, there was a few fans that were saying, "Oh, I think we're gonna have a good season," but you normally get the pre-season optimism, but to see it finally happening for me, it's just unbelievable. Ever since I've started supporting Aldershot, we've been fighting relegation every year. This is the first time I can safely say that we are in that playoff fight. I think we'll finish there. And you know what? I tell you what, I just have a sneaky feeling that we could be going up, because it's always those teams that straggle at the end of the playoffs that seem to just nick it. Like Grimsby, they finished 6th, got promoted. And I just have a good feeling.
I was very, very impressed with. Like, I knew you were a good side, of course, because you're inside the playoffs by right. But I was very impressed with you. Going forward, I was always quite. I know you didn't create that many chances, but I was always quite nervous going forward. How you're getting it down the wings and countering. We were probably better against you when we were attacking. When I felt like our best sort of defence was when we were attacking against you, and usually it's like I'm not very nervous when I'm playing against opposition because I just think the defence will sort it out. Paul, you're someone who we both did our predictions of Aldershot to start the season. I think we probably both had them down there, not in the relegation zone, I believe, but I think we had you down there just surviving like you usually do. Maybe we both look silly at the moment. What's your thoughts been on Aldershot so far?
I'm hugely impressed with how they've gone about what they have, because they've not necessarily got a National League names that you would have rolled off the tongue. And at first, when they brought Tommy Widrington in, it was a case of he went over his way of where he was coaching over in Kings Lynn and got players from that neck of the woods, and they didn't appear to be anyone that was spectacular. And it was a case of, certainly I was looking at them, who are they and will they perform at this level? Quite clearly they are. They're probably a better team than they are individually. Now, going and then supplementing with the likes of Taylor up top, it just, from the Football League and an academy side, it just goes to show the worth of a manager that knows who they're looking for outside of that usual player pot. And I saw the shots down at the Rec against Wealdstone earlier in the season. I was hugely impressed with them without them being too over the top. Listen, Wealdstone, if they took their chances and shots rode their luck a bit, the result may have been different. But as soon as they went 1-0 up, they were very efficient at what they did, and they then picked Wealdstone off. Wealdstone tried to play and try and get some out of the game, and the shots then picked them off. I think it was 3-1 in the end. And they should have had maybe they could have had a player sent off. They should have definitely had a penalty. One of the worst penalties decisions I've seen not given against. I mean, how Aldershot never got given a penalty?
That was ridiculous. Josh Stokes has been cleaned out, and the referee has just waved play on. I mean,
it was. So there was either way back. But what Aldershot did, they were very, very good at what they did. They were very efficient without being too flamboyant, and you can see why they're doing so well this season, because they're just going about their business and being good at what they are, and having a young team with a little bit of, I should imagine now, a confidence, and with a manager that's got the experience, then it's a good mix.
Go on, Kobe.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the buzz around the place is just unbelievable. One of our players in an interview on the weekend, they jokingly just said, well, who's next? Who's next? Because at home, the only game that we have lost is to top of the league Chesterfield, and that was a 4-3 game that realistically we should have won that. And that is why I do back us to go on, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but I actually back us to beat Stockport 2-1 just for the sheer fact of our home form is off the charts at the minute. We're playing some brilliant football. We're scoring a lot of goals. Lauren Tolaj, 14 goals, 8 assists. Josh Stokes, 10 goals. I think it's 7 assists. Like Jack Barham, 10 goals. All three of our forwards have hit double figures already. And you back us to score. We haven't blanked at home all season, and that is why I backed us to get a goal against Halifax. Albeit when it got to those last few stages, I thought, this is going to be a boring 0-0 draw. But then Tolash hits the back of the net. But the one thing I really did want to say is the recruitment-wise, Tommy Widgington has done an unbelievable job in bringing in Jamie Hedges, because he has pulled some absolute magic off. We knew that we don't have the budget to compete with the same group of players, so we have to go and find those other players. You've got hidden gems. Josh Stokes has come from 2 leagues below. Lauren Tolaj was set to play in the second league in Switzerland, and then we've managed to snag him. And it's just players like that you look at, and like you were saying earlier, you look at it and think, who the bloody hell is that guy? And they've just been playing for us, and yeah, we're absolutely flying.
That's the most efficient recruitment, though, isn't it? At this level, I remember Halifax a few seasons ago when it felt like they were life back in Halifax after a few seasons of being quite poor when Wild came, and we found a group of players that no one had really heard of, to be honest, but they played for the team. You could tell they were a bit of a buzz around the town. Once again, that we hadn't had in a while. But once they'd left the club, of course, everyone knew who they were and saw them as proper stars. And that's something that it feels like at Aldershot. You look at Stokes, for example. He's been firing in goals for you from the midfield position. Tolera as well, going forward, scoring goals. You need a prolific goal scorer at this level. You've got one. It's a question that we've got on tonight's show. It is. I don't know if you'd agree, but I think most of us agree Chesterfield are going to probably go on to win the league. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not. Who would you say is going up through the playoffs? Do you, without trying to be biased, and I know naturally you probably will be biased, can you see Aldershot going up? Because it's something that I wouldn't be shocked of from what I've seen so far.
I mean, it mainly is biased me thinking that we're going to go up, because realistically, we've got a good squad, but would we be able to compete in League Two? I don't know. Just for the sheer fact of most of the players we have, really, some of them are too good for League Two. I mean, Josh Stokes, Tolaj, you can see them going to League One. Like, Tolaj was set to go to League One, but we managed to snag him just for the sheer fact that he wanted consistent minutes. But I tell you what, if I was gonna put my money on it, my camera's just died, but I'll continue talking.
Yeah.
If I was going to put money on someone winning the playoffs, it's tough, because you've got an unbelievable set of the rest. Chesterfield are just absolutely walking away with it, and there's no catching them. But you got the Barnet. I mean, Bromley, they looked okay. They didn't look great. Southend are going to make the playoffs for me. Their squad is just brilliant. I think the story's just going to be complete. I think realistically, it's either going to be Barnet or Southend that are going to do it, because Barnet are the best side. Not Barnet, sorry. Southend are the best footballing side that we've played. We got lucky against them. Realistically, we should have lost. We should have lost that game.
Also, Cubby, a topic that's on tonight's show, before we do let you go, we're talking away days now. I've been saying that I properly enjoyed my visit to Aldershot, going around there after the game, even though we did lose. I love the stadium as well, you know, very historic. I prefer those kind of stadiums to the new manufactured ones. For you, though, what would be the best away day that you've been on in the division? Maybe not the result as such, but the character of the ground, maybe what's there around the stadium as well.
If I'm going purely off the last season, because I went to every single game, my favourite one was Southend, just the old school stadium. For me, an away day is also about the surrounding area. I thought you've got the seaside, you've got the bars, you've got a mixture of anything. I stayed the weekend in Oldham, actually, and I thought Oldham was brilliant. So if I was going to pick one, I'll probably say Southend, to be fair. But obviously, I've never been able to experience Aldershot as an away fan. For me personally, I think Aldershot have the best away end for the National League. You've got the likes of Halifax and you've got the likes of Oldham, who have a ginormous away end, but the amount of teams that are going to fill that is next to nothing. You don't get large followings in the National League. So for me, if say, for example, you bring 400 fans to Aldershot, they'll stick you in the East Bank. You've got the barreled roof. As an away fan, you couldn't really ask for much more.
Right. Kobe, thank you very much for joining us tonight to talk a bit about Aldershot. I'm sure we'll get you on once again later on in the season. Hopefully it'll be just as positive, if not more, as it has been tonight, and you're still up there flying.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for having me on. I just do want to say, I think, like I said earlier, I think Aldershot will beat Stockport 2-1. I think Aldershot will finish in the playoffs, and just hoping for a good draw in round 3.
Yeah, good luck to Aldershot in that draw as well. You know, I'm pretty confident that they're going to be able to get a result against Stockport, something that we'll be coming on to shortly. For those who do want to check out Kobe's channel, I'll put a link in the description afterwards. He does vlogs on Aldershot. I believe also does vlogs on different games around the football pyramid, from the Premier League all the way down to the National League. Once again, Kobe, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much. I've got 3 games this weekend, so I best get packing my suitcase.
In a bit, Kobe. So, Paul, it was good to speak to Kobe just then, get a bit of an insight on Aldershot. As we're on the topic of sides that could potentially go up with Chesterfield this season, because I think we both agree now that they're going to go on to win the league. Who is it for you then? What side do you think could go up with Chesterfield this season?
Oh, bloody hell. I think Bromley have got to be in with the shout, purely because they're consistently showing a level of performance that merits them being up the top there. Solihull, started off amazingly well, didn't lose a game for however many, but they seem to have hit a bit of a slump. Has had Barnet. So, yeah, who goes up with? I mean, we speak about this most weeks, don't we, Luke? It sort of changes in our own minds as soon as you see a team has a good result, one team doesn't have a good result, and you start thinking, I mean, you think about Aldershot and Gateshead are those sort of teams that are smaller in size and smaller in squad and smaller in stature, and they're making a real run for it. But who goes up? Oh, maybe ask me after Christmas, but I genuinely, I don't think I could pick one out at the moment that's a standout. A few years ago, I would have said Barnet. I think we all would have done, having seen them play at the weekend and against Oldham on the television. They're very, very susceptible to being carved open at the moment. They need to change that. So that's not going to get them promoted. Whereas I think Bromley are very good defensively. Gateshead score lots of goals. Aldershot are playing with a massive amount of confidence. So there's a few out there. I think we're going to have to ask that question again on a regular basis, because I think it's going to keep changing.
Yeah, well, for me at the moment, I think it's very hard to say. You look at Rochdale, and I know they're just outside the playoffs at the moment, but the form they're on, I'm confident that they're going to find themselves in the playoffs come the end of the season. I know Oldham, they're a side that we'll probably need to talk about a bit tonight with, of course, their heavy defeat at home to Ebbsfleet. Nobody would have predicted a result like that, I wouldn't have thought. I know we both backed Oldham to win that game. Maybe it does show that Oldham do better when maybe they don't have the ball and they're probably better without the ball where they can catch them on the break, where when they're expected to play the football and dominate the football, feels like that they're struggling, aren't they, to do that when the pressure is on them. They like being the underdogs. We saw them go to Chesterfield, get a result. Barnet, they've gone and won there. When they're playing sides near the bottom, they're struggling. You think of Fylde, they lost to them. Ebbsfleet, they lost to them. Oxford, did they beat? I believe, did they draw? I think they might have done against Oldham as well. I believe they still have to play. I don't actually know, it's gone out of my head, but they're struggling against the poor sides in the division when they're the clear favourites. Is that something you'd agree with?
Oh, without a doubt, and they're hugely inconsistent, aren't they, Oldham? I think they've turned so many corners, they're going around in circles because just every time everyone thinks that they've done enough to sort of turn that corner, that a result comes around that's unexpected, and they're just not showing any level of consistency with the amount of players they got, the squad they've got, the experienced manager they brought in. You'd have thought they would start kick on a little bit, and 4-1 away at Barnet on the television was an impressive result. It doesn't matter how they played, how industrial it was, how direct it was. Yeah, that's irrelevant. To get a 4-1 win against a team that's second away from home on a midweek is an impressive result. And you'd have thought that's something to build on. You go back to your home ground on a Saturday on the back of that result, and you get drubbed 4-1 by a relegation candidate. Yeah. It can't be good for the squad. It can't be good for the fans, because I don't think they have any idea what Oldham team are going to come out and perform. So they're at home again on Saturday against Boreham Wood, a game you'd expect them to win. Who knows? It's a real difficult one for them.
Yeah. Well, we say expect to win, but it's the kind of opponent that Oldham will probably dread because, that they're at home. They're against a Boreham Wood side that are down there, but also a very frustrating side to play against. They still are this season. They're still fairly good defensively. Still, I would say, especially away from home. It's their home form that's been worse for them this season. A question's coming in and said, why is nobody talking about Altrincham? Just beat Solihull 6-1. Yeah, we haven't mentioned them yet, and they deserve a lot of credit. We both predicted draws in that game versus Solihull. My thoughts on Altrincham, and the reason that I'd say I don't think they're going to be good enough to go up, maybe why they will fall out of the playoffs, is I personally think, and Dan, please come in and give your thoughts on my response and Paul's response here in the chat. You'll obviously know more as you watch them week in, week out. What I get from Altrincham is if Con Clark got injured, I think you'd struggle significantly. I know you've had your injury problems so far in the season and you've dealt with them pretty well. But I think if Con Clark got injured, I would think Altrincham would probably struggle. What's your thoughts, Paul? Or do you disagree with that?
I think Dan's right. Why is nobody talk about Altrincham? Dan, if I was an Altrincham fan, I'll be well happy that no one's talking about them and they're just getting along and sort of in the top 6 or 7. I think they're certainly within that mix because they've got the ability to score goals. They've adapted to that full-time model in the last couple of years extremely well. They've stuck with their manager when they didn't have a good period last year. So they're a club of stability. They're a club that it is very well run both on and off the pitch, and that can only help with the success going forward. And they are slowly building from that mid-table team to consolidate into mid-table to then being a promotion hopeful and a playoff hopeful. And Dan, I'm with you. I think Altrincham could be in there with the likes of Bromley, with the likes of Gateshead. I think it's going to be some more these more unfancy teams are going to be up in and around the top 7 rather than your established ex-EFL teams or your supposed big National League teams. So this I saw Altrincham play down at the Vale. It was 0-0. It wasn't a brilliant game. but they play very good football. And, if they've got lads who could score goals and they've got the likes of Con Clark who can play a bit, again, a bit like Aldershot, they've got a very, very good mix to do well in this league.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk more about the sides when we get on to the predictions shortly. Before we do that, someone asked, who is the mysterious manager that we've got on to interview on the podcast? Now, because those who are tuning in tonight, I'm going to let you all aware. Please don't go on Twitter promoting it, because I'm going to announce that on Twitter as not punishment, but just as a bit of a thank you to those who tuned in tonight. I'm going to let you know early. Now, I've managed to get Tommy Widrington on the podcast, so it should be an interesting one that to interview him, not just about his time at Aldershot, but also Kings Lynn. He's also time in the analyst side of football, sporting director side of things, as well as his playing career as well. He was a very successful player. He's played in the Premier League before as well. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about Aldershot and their ambitions from his perspective, but I'm hoping to record that on Monday, so it should be out probably this time next week, I would have thought. So please don't promote that on Twitter or any social media, but that's basically who we are going to be interviewing. We're going to get on with the predictions then. As I get everything sorted out, let's take a look at the predictions league. You beat me last week. For those that I've noticed, my badge is in the way, but I got a +7. Paul got a +9. You had 2 exact predictions correct, and then 3 other predictions that you got half correct. If that makes sense.
Yeah. That's not bad. That's not a bad week for either of us, really. There was some coupon busters in there, wasn't there? Altrincham winning 6-1 and Oldham losing 4-1. So to get 9 points and 7 points is fairly respectable, and it just claws me 2 points closer to you, Luke. So there's only 8 points in it now.
Yeah, well, you've needed it, haven't you? Because to be fair, you have been behind so far. I don't think you've been in front yet so far.
No, I haven't, no.
But, we're only halfway through the season, and you're still only 8 points behind me. It only takes potentially even one game week to catch me up.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, they're tough games to predict. I don't know if anyone else does it. Any of the listeners do it by themselves, but it's a really, really tough league to predict because ultimately, as we can see, anyone can beat anyone on their day. I mean, even Chesterfield aren't susceptible to getting beaten occasionally. So it's a really difficult one because you can look at previous form and home form and away form and injuries and signings, but it's really, really tough to sort of decide every week who's going to win a game or lose a game, or are they going to be a draw. So we'll go again this week, Luke. I'll try and claw some more points back, mate.
Yeah, everyone in the live chat, please get involved with your predictions. Of course, we put them on the screen if we do get enough predictions coming through, and we'll talk about your thoughts. Just over 50 people watching at the moment, so please remember to like and subscribe too. Like and of course gets it out to even more people, and subscribing builds the community up. Of course, like I've said throughout the season, we've improved. And got numbers even higher probably than last season, to be fair, which has been very good considering the clubs that we lost in the summer in Wrexham and Notts County. But to be fair, it's good to see such a diverse community as well, with different clubs from Maidenhead all the way up to a side like Chesterfield. That's not taking the mick out of Maidenhead, by the way. We'll get on with the predictions then. So top of the league, Chesterfield still remain. Bromley, I believe, remain second, or did they overtake them, I think, at the weekend?
Yeah, they went up by Barnet, yeah.
Yeah, after you guys beat them in the last minute. Solihull are in 4th now. Gateshead, Aldershot and Altrincham make up the playoffs. Rochdale and Halifax sit just outside the playoffs. And then looking towards the bottom of the league at the moment, Ebbsfleet are climbing further up the table, just inside the relegation spots at the moment on goal difference. Oxford still in the drop zone, Fylde, and then Kidderminster sit bottom of the league. Are Kidderminster gone for you, or can you still see them escaping, avoiding relegation this season?
That's a they're 7 points off being safe. I think that's near enough 3 wins. I don't mean they've I think they've won 1 or 2 games, including the one against Wealdstone. So I don't see them winning enough games and getting enough points, Luke. They may not finish bottom, but it's likely to, because we've talked about it previous weeks on a number of occasions in relation to the lack of goals that they can score, and you've got to be able to score some goals in this league to gain some points, and it's just not happening for them. The thing with Kidderminster and Fylde and Oxford really is those three is they've not dropped completely away. They're still in there. So whilst that's the case, they've got to have a little bit of hope that their fortunes can change. But I can't see it that that bottom 4, 5, or 6 is not really going to change too much, I don't suppose.
If you're Woking, you must be concerned as well. At the start of the season, they were in and around the playoffs. They're now just above the drop zone on goal difference. Of course, they lost to Boreham Wood, conceded 4 goals to Boreham Wood. Do you reckon they're a side that could go down this season?
Oh, but without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, they just cannot win a game, can they? They've won 1 in the last 7. They haven't got a manager. They're still waiting to appoint the manager. So who knows what's happening behind the scenes in relation to that. On paper, we've said before, their recruitment has been a little bit indifferent. The style that Darren Sale played, although he's a good manager at National League level, was probably found wanting. They over-exceeded last year by the looks of it, if you look at this season. But without a doubt, they should be doing better than they are. They're an established National League side. They do well in cups. To see them there, joint 4th from bottom and only being out of it because of goal difference is massively worrying if you're a Woking fan, to be honest.
We'll move on to the predictions then. First game, then we'll do the National League games first. That must have just been announced now then, Bromley Ebbsfleet.
No, it's postponed.
Yeah, so we won't preview that game. So I do apologise to those 2 set of supporters who have tuned in. Is that this game week? No, it's 27. We're miles ahead.
There you go. That's it. That one. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Of course, these games are postponed. They're not due to pitch conditions or anything like that. It's down to FA Cup, which we're going to come on to once we've got on with the National League predictions. I'm going to be honest, guys. I haven't prepared any predictions tonight, so it's kind of off the cuff. Maybe an opportunity for Paul to overtake me with that, may you say?
Well, listen. You can sometimes overthink it. I try not. I do it fairly quickly in my own mind and have a look at recent form. But yeah, if you think about it too much, you start second guessing yourself and really going for it. So, I had a quick look this afternoon and put down a little bit of a rationale for myself. But listen, if you're doing it off the cuff, you're probably just as well to do that as you are trying to analyse it, to be honest.
Right then, first game, Fylde versus Hartlepool. I'm going to back Fylde to win this 2-1. How do you see it going, Paul?
Yeah, I've gone with a 2-1 win to Fylde as well. The good thing with Fylde, although they're bottom of the league, although they're in the bottom 4, they're very capable of scoring goals, which is something that like we just said, you just need to do. And there's going to have a bit of confidence in them. They haven't lost in the last 2, so that's going to help. They did lose a 2-goal lead against Dorking. That might not help. There's things to sort of counteract a lot of this positivity or negativity when you look at teams recently. But when you look at that negativity, Hartlepool have only won 1 in the last 7. So I think, again, you've got to go with home advantage, the fact they can score, the fact they haven't lost in the last 2, the fact they need the 3 points, whereas Hartlepool probably do as well. But, they're going to be a bit safer. So I've gone with Fylde 2, Hartlepool 1.
Yeah, when I look at Fylde, you look at 2 draws. Maybe it's they just need to score more. When you actually look at it, they're scoring a lot of goals. Maybe I just think that maybe might just not been getting the look of the draw with these games, and it might just not be going for them. And I'm sure it's going to go for them at some point, because when I saw them against Halifax, they could have easily gone on to win that game, to be honest. I was quite impressed with them. Defensively, not so much, but going forward, I'd go as far to say the best side I've seen at the Shea going forward this season with the wingers they've got in it. Eustabasi and Kay as well, and then Horton came on and made a massive difference for them too. Hartlepool, of course, they're just struggling, aren't they? You know, you see them get a result against York away from home. They then get a point at Kidderminster. You're then thinking back at home now against Bromley. Yes, they're doing well in the league, but you'd like to think they can get something from this game. And to come away from that with 0 points under the circumstances, which of course was that Bromley's team bus actually broke down. So the Bromley players, now a Hartlepool fan told me, the Bromley players actually had to get dressed in the kit and then get Ulbers to the stadium. And they still managed to go there and put on a show and tear Hartlepool apart by literally just catching them on the break. And you know, if you do that against Fylde, where you know you throw in a lot of men forward, Fylde will punish you going on the other side with the attackers they've got, because they can break very quickly. Next game then that we will talk about, Bromley versus Rochdale then. Rochdale come into this game after just defeating Dagenham away from home on some very good form at the moment, scoring a lot of goals. Bromley coming to this, I believe, on the back of a win against Hartlepool, of course. Quite a difficult one to call, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, without doubt. I've gone with a 2-2 draw because I think if you look at Rochdale, they're a little bit like Altrincham. They're very quietly going about their business. I've said this before. They respect the league. They're showing respect to the league. Their fans are showing respect to the league. They're not giving it the big one. They're not expecting to go and walk away with it. I mean, Rochdale won 4 of the last 5, and the game they lost was against Wealdstone. And to be honest with you, Wealdstone nicked a last-minute winner, so they could have easily come away with the draw. So, you know, they would be unbeaten in 5, and I think their performance would be more satisfying than maybe the end result in that game. So to have good 5 games in a row is something that's showing a bit more consistency for Rochdale, who are adapting to the league. The thing is, they're coming up against a Bromley side on the plastic down in sort of south of the river, down in sort of South London borders in Kent. That they've lost 1 in the last 7. Bromley, they are just absolutely flying, and not even broken down coaches having to get Ubers seems to stop their ability to win. So Bromley are at home. With Rochdale's ability to be able to score goals as well, I've gone with a 2-2 draw because I'm not sure I can really divide them.
I'm going to disagree with you on that, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Bromley. It's a long way to go. Rochdale are going all that way to a plastic pitch. I know Rochdale are on form at the moment, but we have seen throughout the season they are overall quite inconsistent. You know, they'll get a result against a very good side one week, and then the following week they'll go and lose. For example, the Wealdstone game, going into that game, they was on very good form, and then they came into the game and they lost in that fashion. Maybe defensively is where you do get it. And of course, Bromley, I think, are just a very well-rounded side in the way that they like to play in that industrial side of football. You know, they all know their jobs. They're all very well organised, and they don't ship too many goals at all, do Bromley. So for me, I'm going to back them to win this game. Keep your predictions coming in, guys. We'll go on to the next game then. And it's, of course, my team, Halifax versus Solihull Moors. Of course, we've just lost in the last minute to Aldershot away in probably the last kick of the game. Prior to that, we'd also we dropped points in the last minute to Fylde. It's clearly a problem, isn't it, at the moment for Halifax, although overall we are quite good defensively.
Yeah, it does appear to be. I mean, Luke, you've watched them obviously more than I have, and you can sort of see it from your perspective. But teams there's lots of late goals in the National League. You know, I saw one with Wealdstone on the end of a win on Saturday, and Barnet have taken advantage of a few over the last few games. At 2 examples, there's probably loads more. These teams have to understand, as Joe said, Halifax might get a 99th minute winner. These teams have to go to the 98, 99, 100th minute, not the 90th minute. These referees are adding time on, and it's that level of concentration required at both ends of the field to try and win a game or keep a game from slipping away. So, yeah, I think it's not going to be lost on the Halifax lads that they've done that twice in 2 weeks. So, I'm sure they're probably not going to be peppered as much against Solihull as maybe some other teams recently. I've actually gone with a Halifax win, Luke, which won't please you.
No, you can't do that. We never win when you do that ever. There's a curse about that.
I know, but listen, you can't. Solihull, brilliant start to the season. Looked like they were just going to be sort of matching Chesterfield, going toe to toe with them. They've lost the last 3, and they're really struggling to score more than one per game. So not scoring as many goals as they were at the beginning of the season. They won once in the last 8. It's just, and they got stuffed 6-1 at the weekend. It's an opportunity for Halifax to be able to get a defensive situation back to where it should be, because they are very good defensively. And also, if you look at Halifax, if you analyse their results like I did earlier, they've won, drawn, lost, won, drawn, lost. So this one should be a win. That inconsistency of not picking up the same result every week. It's win, drew, lost in the last 6. So I think that again has influenced me to sort of go, actually Halifax will win. It's only going to be 1-0, Luke. That's what I've put down.
It's going to be low scoring because Halifax don't. That's the issue. Maybe it's the style of play that we play, but I think overall it's clear to be known that we need more firepower going forward, and it can't go on. If we're wanting to get into the playoffs, that is, I can't see this side, especially when injuries have kicked in, being consistent enough throughout the season to make it into the playoffs. Because I just don't think going forward we'll have enough unless we bring in a striker. We've seen Florent Hotte. He's gone out. He's injured now. And I thought we missed him against Aldershot. And, you're getting a player back. Like Millie Ali came back into the lineup a few weeks ago and definitely brought us that extra spark. Then Jack Evans, who's been key for us when he's been out. Then's injured for a couple of months. So, of course, the injury issues are certainly stacking up like it is at a lot of National League clubs at the moment. You look at this game, and some might say it's a good time to play Solihull, 3 defeats in a row. But if you look at it from another perspective, they're bound to get a result at some point, and they're going to be back. They're going to be desperate to get a result. For me, from a non-biased perspective, I look at this and I look at Solihull overall as being quite a good defensive and well-organised side when they are at their best. That is. And I'm going to go for a draw for this game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I'm going to go a little bit different to yourself. It's going to be low scoring. I just like to think that we can. I like to think we can win this game, but unfortunately, if I'm not being biased, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw because I just think Solihull are going to be so desperate to get a result. Otherwise, they could be a side that falls out of the playoffs very, very soon because it is very tight at the moment in those areas. We'll move on to the next game then now. Kidderminster versus Ebbsfleet, a bottom of the table clash. We've been saying for a number of weeks, haven't we, about Kidderminster needing to start getting results against sides in and around them. So, for example, going to Oxford, they managed to get a result there. You'd say now, Ebbsfleet at home, the side who are down there, we're at home, we need to win this game and back it up with a win now. But Ebbsfleet come into this probably full of confidence after going to Oldham and Scott putting 4 past them. How do you see it going, Paul?
I think you're right. I mean, both teams can take a little bit of crumb of comfort from the weekend. Kiddie have drawn the last 2, which for them is not bad. And you think that they were 2-0 down against Oxford and brought it back to draw the game. So again, they've got to be looking at that and thinking that's something that they haven't done previously. Clearly, Ebbsfleet are going to be absolutely flying off the back of that 4-1 win at Oldham. No one expected that at all. So what Ebbsfleet have got to do is take confidence from that. And we've said on paper, their squad, they probably haven't vastly improved it from the National League South winning team, but that was a really good team that won that league at a bit of a canter last year. So I think from Ebbsfleet's point of view, they've got to start winning more games. They've got to use that full-time basis that they have as a newly promoted side and some of the quality they've got in their side, the likes of Polian up top. But it's a real 6-pointer, and neither team are going to want to lose. We talk about 6-pointers every week. This is definitely one of. There's a couple in this week, and this is definitely one of those. So I've gone with a 2-0 win to Ebbsfleet purely based on the fact that they can score goals. It's just shown that last week, and I don't think Ebbsfleet will probably be quite as bad defensively to give up a lead like Oxford may have. I'm not suggesting Oxford were that bad, but to give up a 2-0 lead in another 6-pointer last week would have really kicked Oxford in the what's it. So I don't see Ebbsfleet doing that, and I've gone with Ebbsfleet to win 2-0.
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. You look there, 2 back-to-back draws. I think they're going to make it a third draw against Ebbsfleet. Kidderminster, we talk about every week. If they don't score enough goals, I believe they've only still, after adding those 2 goals on from the Oxford game, they've still only scored 14 goals. You can't expect to survive this season in this division by scoring 14 goals. Against us, I didn't think they were that bad overall. I thought we were quite poor. But a better side, like we saw Fyle do a little bit better going forward, would have taken the chances against us. And that's something that Kidderminster should have done. They should have got away from that game with a point, in my opinion. And it's the same every single week. They're going into games, not essentially getting turned off the park, but they're going into games and losing simply because they're just not scoring enough goals. And we said it about the summer, didn't we, about them not recruiting well enough going forward. They were a big club. They were a former Football League side, but they didn't recruit well enough going forward. They scraped through the playoffs after finishing 6th in the league below. You clearly needed to invest a lot in the squad, I would have thought, to survive in this division. And I believe they've just trusted the side that got them out of this league too much. And they haven't invested enough, if that was possible for them to invest. And that's why I think Kidderminster are going to struggle to survive this season. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Oldham versus Boreham Wood. Oldham come into this so inconsistent. You look at the form, it looks quite healthy. You then go and lose 4-1 at home to Ebbsfleet. Your confidence is shot, and you're coming against a Boreham Wood side that frustrate sides like Oldham, Chesterfield, the so-called better sides in the division, if we're putting Oldham in that bracket, which I would. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone exactly the same. The worrying stat for Oldham is they're at home, and Boundary Park haven't seen a win since Oxford City on the 23rd of September. We're now into December, so they've gone October, November without a win at home, and that's got to be a worrying fact for someone like Oldham, who have such a big crowd, behind them, which may be the adverse effect. But you'd have thought that home advantage should be used for so much more than it is. I think this purely is down to what team comes out and performs, because they've both been underperforming this season. And like we said, we've seen Oldham come out and win 4-1 at Barnet and lose 4-1 to Ebbsfleet. Which Oldham's going to turn up? Boreham Wood are a playoff team on paper, on past history. Which Boreham Wood team's going to turn up? Again, they won 4-2. They scored 4 on Saturday. So clearly teams, they're capable of scoring. They're susceptible to letting them in. I think it's purely down to which team comes out and fancies it a little bit more. I can't divide them. I've gone with a 1-1 draw like you, Luke.
Oxford versus Maidenhead, 2 part-time sides in this division. Two of the 4 remaining part-time sides in the division now. Maidenhead, you look at that form, and that's surprising. 3 wins on the spin, 2 draws, a total of 11 points in 5 games, unbeaten in 5 as well. You look at Oxford, fairly inconsistent, but I think overall, for a side that's down there at the moment, decent number of games, picking up 2 wins in 5 and a draw. That's mid-table, isn't it, if you look at that over the course of a season, if they were consistent like that throughout the course of the season. I'm going to go for another draw for this game, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Maidenhead, like we said, often do better against the better sides. They're fairly good at home because sides go there, and struggle because of how tight the pitch is. Oxford, of course, play on a plastic pitch, which I think's for them, a huge advantage and might be essential to them surviving this season if they manage to do that. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone with the draw. I've gone with 2-2. I think I've had this hunch for a while, a bit like Kobe was talking about Aldershot getting in the playoffs. I've got a hunch that Oxford City out of the bottom 4 and the 4 promoted sides, I think will be the one that could survive. Do just pick up results out every now and then. They will be kicking themselves that they were 2-0 up on Saturday and they drew 2-2. That's 2 drop points from their perspective. But if you look at this, this is probably the other 6-pointer on the game week, because if Oxford win, they go to the same number of points as Maidenhead. If Maidenhead win, they take themselves 6 points away from Oxford. So it's a massive game in terms of where they might end up in the league. So, yeah, I think I can't divide them. I think it'll be 2-2 draw. Both teams are capable of winning. Maidenhead tend to do better against the bigger teams, or the so-called bigger teams, and the more established teams. How they adapt onto the plastic down at Oxford City is to be seen. But they've clearly got the quality Maidenhead. They've been in this league long enough. We say it every year. Are they the ones for the trapdoor this time? And they keep getting to that point and dropping back up and just sort of putting their head above the parapet. So a 2-2 draw, and it's also worthy of note that it's a derby of sorts. They're quite local to each other, so the crowd might be healthy. It might be a good game to go and watch, and I think it will be 2-2 draw.
Woking versus Gateshead. Then Woking at the moment 5 defeats, and there's more defeats before that. It's not looking good for Woking at the moment. They're only above the drop zone on goal difference, and they're coming up against the Gateshead side that were unbeaten in 4 and are certainly doing well this season. And a side that, I don't know, I think Woking at the moment, they're struggling against any side in this division, and there's a serious case for them going down. How do you see it going, Paul?
No, I think you're right. We've sort of seen bigger clubs drop out of the National League over the last few years, haven't we? And last year we lost Scunthorpe and we've lost Yeovil in the past and Torquay. So I think Woking are that team that could be dragged into it. I mean, they've got to be the most disappointing team of the season so far. We talk about the likes of Gateshead doing well and Altrincham doing well and Wealdstone doing well at home as an example, and Solihull style. I mean, Woking have just been poor. Having no manager still. God knows when they're going to appoint a new manager. They've won 1 in the last 7, and they're going against Gateshead, who probably one of the most informed teams. Who've won 3 out of the last 4. And when you look at Gateshead as well, they've scored at least 2 goals away from home in most matches. It probably averages slightly more than that, because I think they did win 6-0, didn't they? 1 away game. So I don't think Woking's luck is going to turn on the weekend. They're 5 losses in a row. I think they're going to go down again and lose 2-0 to Gateshead.
I'm going to go for a heavy defeat, 4-0 to Gateshead. Gateshead don't overall have a good record against Woking, but this season's different, like they've shown. So once again, I think they'll win 4-0. Woking are an absolute shambles. I think it's showing that maybe it's not Sal, maybe he wasn't the problem, maybe there's other issues within the squad, and this appointment is going to be essential because they need to make it very quickly, as they're clearly not making any improvements at the moment, are they? And the only way they're going to make improvements for me is either investing in the squad, which I don't think they're going to do too much because they've spent quite a lot in the summer, or bringing in a new manager that finds some kind of way to motivate the squad. But yeah, I'm going to go for a heavy defeat the way they're playing at the moment. I believe onto the FA Cup games now.
No, there's 2 more league games, Luke.
2 more league games. So they're
Altrincham Dorking and Southend Wealdstone. Let's
have a look then. But let's go by date. That'll be easier, won't it? It'll come up here. So we've got Altrincham versus Dorking. We said this last season, 2 footballing sides. Altrincham, of course, doing very well, but maybe not the type of opposition they're wanting to come up against. A footballing side that's going to go there and play football. and are likely to score against Altrincham. For me, though, I'm going to back Alty. There's a reason they're still inside the playoffs. I think they'll win 2-1. How do you see it going?
Well, I've gone slightly high. I've gone 4-2. I mean, the game might not go ahead. They're having a pitch inspection tomorrow lunchtime, aren't they? But if the game goes ahead, I think Altrincham will win 4-2. Listen, both teams are very capable of scoring goals. They're both capable of conceding goals. And I think Dorking are more capable of conceding goals than Altrincham are, and that reflects in their league position. So, high scoring home win for Altrincham. A lot of confidence after that 6-1 win at the weekend. They're all going to be wanting to get on the score sheet if it does go ahead. Hopefully it will. Should be a very good game. They're both, as you say, good footballing sides. So I'm going for Altrincham 4, Dorking 2.
Fair enough. It's a bit out there, but with Dorking, they are the type of team that produce those crazy scores. And I think you're kind of copying me now with the Chesterfield result versus Barnet, hoping to replicate that.
I'll try, Lou. I'm going away from the 2-0, 2-1s. Every now and then I'll put in a bit of a cheeky score just to see what happens.
Nothing. There's no issue with that. Southend versus Wealdstone then. Any confidence going into this game? We talked about Southend and how if it wasn't for the point deduction, they'd be inside the playoffs. Another issue, I think, if you look at issues on the playing squad at the moment, is, of course, their away form isn't the best. It's still playoff worthy, but not to the same extent as their home form. Home form, I believe there's only Barnet, and I think that might have changed now, but there's only Chesterfield, I believe, in the division that have got a better home form than Southend. Wealdstone haven't won away since
in a year. It's over a year now. They've won. I think they've won one. They've won one away game in a year. The whole calendar year.
Any confidence?
Yes and no. I mean, Luke, you said earlier about another team that Solihull, I think it was. They've got to get a result at some point. At some point, Wealdstone have to get a result away from home that's more favourable than a 1-0 loss, which is appearing to happen on a more regular basis at the moment. Wealdstone's home form is playoff worthy. Their away form is relegation worthy. It's not gone unnoticed by the management. It's not gone unnoticed by us as fans. Listen, we're going to be buoyed by the fact we beat Barnet 3-2 in the last minute at home at the Vale on the weekend. That's a great fillip for everybody. The fact we're going to Southend, and like you said, I think they've got to be team of the season, irrespective of Chesterfield run away at the moment. Southend, with what's gone on, with the lack of players, with the lack of investment, with the lack of training facilities at the beginning of the season, with uncertainty whether they were going to continue in the league, all those sorts of things, they've done remarkably well to keep grinding out results. And every now and then they might not get what they want, but they've done very well. So. Listen, something's got to give for Wealdstone. We're going against a very strong home team. We've got a crap away form. Well, crap's probably a nice way of putting it. I am going a little bit with my heart rather than my head here, and I'm going with a Southend 2, Wealdstone 2. I am going for a draw. We have beaten them there before. We do quite not so bad against some of the bigger teams. So I'm going with a little bit of hope that we don't get beaten. I don't think we'll win, so I've gone with a 2-2 draw.
I'm going to go for a 2-0 Southend win. They're very, very good at home this season. The only side, apart from Altrincham, only them and Altrincham have managed to defeat Chesterfield this season. And I can't see where they're going to slip up at home. They've been very good. Eastleigh at home this season, Oldham at home. The list goes on some of the sides that they've managed to win at home. It certainly feels like it's a bit of it's magical there at the moment, doesn't it? With what's going on, I don't know if magical is the best word to use, but it does feel like the fans are clearly getting behind them and giving them that added motivation to perform well. And we say this every week about how well they're doing with the lack of depth that they've got in the squad. They've only got 14 players available this week. Yet they're still going out there and putting on a show for those Southend supporters. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they do start to bring in players, because I'm hoping, and I think the majority of the league is hoping it does happen very soon, which is looking like when the takeover's finalised, and some of the names that they've got are all from like the National League South and National League North. So it'll be interesting to see how they fit into the side. We'll talk about that on an upcoming show. Anyway, let's have a look at the games. And now we'll only have a look at the National League games, unless we do Maidstone versus Barrow. We'll leave that to the end, as I know we've got a few Maidstone fans that still tune in. I'm not particularly sure how this goes. We'll go on to bye round. Let's have a look then. So we've got Newport versus Barnet. How do you see this one going? Newport struggling near the bottom in League Two, just above the relegation zone at the moment. Barnet 4 defeats in a row. Probably a good escape from the league. You know, if they win this game, it gives them that distraction from the league, but also could give them that push to then basically gain a bit more momentum. How do you see it going, Paul?
Well, Newport beat Oldham, another National League team, in the last round 2-0. As I said, I saw Barnet on the weekend, and they got hugely exposed at times by Wealdstone because of the way they commit so many players forward. They clearly did that against Oldham and got done 4-1. Barnet did rely a lot on set plays, free kicks, restarts. You know, they've got Jordan Cropper takes a very, very good long throw. Dale Gorman in the midfield. The only time he kicks the ball is when he's taking a free kick. So they do put teams under a lot of pressure. And if Newport haven't done their homework, which I should imagine they probably have, but if they haven't, they come up against a team they don't know. Barnet could really use that to their effect and put them under pressure. They play a really high-pressing game in the first half of the weekend, Barnet, and put loads of pressure on Wealdstone, didn't let them play. In the second half, they dropped that off for whatever reason. The tempo for Wealdstone improved. Now, if Newport can do that and break that press and stop that, then I think they're going to have a lot of joy. Now, I can't see Barnet win. It's a long way to go, isn't it? I think Newport will win 3-1. They're just, the mid-table League Two, so they're not a million miles off probably the quality of National League. But I just can't see Barnet winning off the back of 4 defeats. I mean, Barnet have let 13 goals in those 4 games and only scored 5. So that's another problem. Is they're letting a lot of goals in. I think that will continue on Saturday.
I'd have to agree with you on that. Barnet out on form at the moment. We say it could be a good distraction from the league, which it could if they win. But it's like I said, travelling to South Wales in Newport. Newport themselves not having the best of seasons, but probably going to be safe from the drop zone. So for them, they can put a lot into the FA Cup, because I know we like to think as well, when sides from the league above, they may not take the National League seriously when they come up against those opposition and underestimate them. But for League Two clubs, it's also a good opportunity at this stage now to get to the third round, and it's also a big opportunity for them to get a bit of extra funds into the club. And a side like Newport certainly will need that. So I'm going to back Newport to win 2-0. Moving on to the next game then now, we have got Eastleigh versus Reading. Two bit of a derby, as both sides aren't too far from each other. I say too far, I believe like an hour, something like that, between the two sides. You'll know more than me, Paul, as you live down there, kinda. How do you see it going, Paul?
It's a little bit further than an hour apart, actually, to be fair, Luke. It's a southern derby. I'll give you that, being that up north. But listen, Reading are in the bottom 3 of the League One. They've only paid their players today. There's obviously a lot going on behind the scenes at Reading. They've got a very inexperienced squad for League One. I think they're going to be too strong for Eastleigh. The good thing for Reading is they won their last 2 games, and they've only gained 13 points the whole season. They've got 6 points off of the last 2 games. I know they've lost 4 points deducted off the Football League for financial irregularities, but they would still just be out of the bottom 3. So, Eastleigh are one of those teams we don't talk often about. They changed their manager in the last few weeks, and that seems to have helped them that little bit. But they're just plodding along mid-table. I don't think they excite anyone in particular. Yeah. I don't think they're gonna do enough to beat Reading, because Reading are in the league, are a League One side, even if they're near the bottom. So I've gone Eastleigh 0, Reading 3.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. Reading have the worst away record in the whole of League One this season. Eastleigh have only been defeated twice at home all season. For me, I think it's a good opportunity for, we've Reading with the issues that they're having off the field at the moment. I know they've picked up as of late, but for me, I'm going to back Eastleigh. I think it's a typical game where you could see a bit of an upset, and I'm going to back Eastleigh in this game 2-0. The magic of the FA Cup. Next game, then, let's find this one. This is a big one. Aldershot versus Stockport. I am amazed that this hasn't been televised. Two sides that scored an awful lot of goals. Stockport smashing it in League Two. Of course, they've had a few defeats as of late. Stockport, a side that we were covering on this channel not too long ago when they were in this division, and now they're looking to get promotion into League One. They almost got promoted last season, which would have been back-to-back promotions. They went on like a 15-game unbeaten run. Not unbeaten, but win streak. And I believe equalled a League Two record in that. Aldershot come into this having only one defeat at home all season, and that was to Chesterfield. For me, it screams goals, and I think I could see a replay in this game. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've said exactly the same, actually, 2-2.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Aldershot, like you said, I think Aldershot have got to look at this and say they're in a great run of form. They're playing at home, which their form's brilliant. Although Stockport are top of the league, they haven't won in the last two. Aldershot in the cup drubbed Swindon 7-4 and were 7-0 up after 54 minutes. And if you include the last 10 games, if you include the 10 games that shots have played, if you include the FA Cup games in that, they've won 8 and lost 2. They are absolutely banging form, and it's not somewhere Stockport want to go. That home end that you spoke about will be pumping. It'll be probably a capacity crowd, if not near a capacity crowd. The pitch is a lovely surface, so that both teams can play it. It's set up to be a really, really good FA Cup tie, this one, and I can't divide them. I think out of all the games, it's one that the National League team could win, but I can't divide them. I've gone for a 2-2 draw as well.
We'll move on to the next game then now, which I believe will be Chesterfield versus Leyton Orient. Now, I go into this game, Leyton Orient, a side that weren't too long ago in the National League. Of course, smashing it now, maybe not smashing it, but are in League One at the moment, and have had done very well for themselves, and a brilliant example of what sides can do once they've got out of this division, like many sides that have got promoted. Chesterfield, though, for me, if they can beat top of the league Portsmouth, who were unbeaten all season, then they surely can be a side near the bottom of League One in Leyton Orient. And I'm going to go for a 2-0 Chesterfield win for this game. They haven't been defeated at home all season. You'd have to go back some time for the last time that they got defeated at home. It might even be to Notts County, which was like February time, I believe, last time that they lost at home. I know a Chesterfield fan will come in here and correct me with that. How do you see it going, Paul?
I completely agree, Luke. I think if this FA Cup tie was played towards the beginning of the season, Leyton Orient were up there and were doing well in League One off the back of getting promoted from League Two. But they've slipped to mid-table. They haven't won one. They've in the last games. And Chesterfield at home, they've turned Pompey over. They're absolutely flying in the National League. I don't think they're going to fear anybody, especially up at their place. And I see out of all the National League teams competing this weekend, I see that as the one being the upset and the team that goes through. And I've gone for Chesterfield 2, Leyton Orient 1.
Is that it for the National League games?
York.
Wigan. Now, this is a big game because you look at York. This is I think, quite an attractive tie for York against Wigan, former Premier League side in Wigan. Of course, you look at York, quite fortunate to be in this position. I know you can only beat what's in front of you, but they've had a fairly easy run, and they've actually made that quite difficult against Chester, who are mid-table in the National League North. Took them to a replay and they beat someone like Tamworth before that, Nuneaton. So it was someone like that before that. Yeah, quite fortunate to be in this position, but they're in this position, and it's quite an attractive tie for York. 5,500 home seats sold so far, so clearly going to be a big crowd for the Minster men. This could be what gives the York players a kick up the arse for this season. If they can win this game, it'll give them that motivation. Because of course, you look at them at the moment; they're struggling near the bottom of the National League. Nothing seems to be going right there. They'll pick up a result, and then they'll be back to square one once again. For me, I'm going to back York, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 York win. I know I've backed the majority of the National League sides, but I honestly think there's a good opportunity to get a fair few sides through in this tie. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I'm not as confident, Luke. You know what? My feelings on York, and they're not so excellent start to the season. I can't see York. They are at home. I don't know if it's on the telly. It's 7:45 tomorrow night, so it might well be on the television. I think Wigan are just going to be a bit too strong, and York only just got past Needham Market. It was in a replay. Just got past Chester in a replay.
Yeah,
they'll be lucky if they take this to a replay. I don't think they will, and I think Wigan will probably come out comfortably winning 3-1.
Fair enough, then. I believe that wraps up all the games then, National League games and FA Cup games. Please remember to like and subscribe, guys. We know the majority of you will, of course, watch afterwards, and a lot of sides who are competing in the FA Cup this week might not be tuning in this week because, of course, their main focus will be on the Cup, and they may not think that we're previewing these games. But please promote the podcast out there. Remember to like, subscribe, and if you're watching it afterwards, post your predictions in the comments below. And thoughts. Also get your topics in. I know we've had a few people that have messaged me about topics and stuff for upcoming podcasts that we'll bring up on the shows. So yeah, get your topics in either through the live chat or message it me prior to the show if you're unable to attend the show live. Anyway, that more or less wraps things up. Paul, thank you once again for joining me.
No problem, Luke. Thanks for having me.
No, it's like I've said always, it's good to have you on, and good luck to Wealdstone this weekend.
Yeah, I think they're going to need it, Luke. Like you said, Southend are quite formidable at home, and we're quite wretched away. But I'm holding out hope that we don't lose. So that's what I'm hanging my hat on, and especially after the euphoria of beating Barnet 3-2 in the last Saturday. Everyone's going to be buoyed by that, and hopefully we can, off the back of that, get something favourable at Southend.
Yeah. Also, thank you to our donation tonight, 79p. Thank you for the donation. It is much appreciated. And thank you to everyone that's also tuned in to tonight's show. For now, we will see you next week, I believe. Maybe not if it's FA Trophy. We'll have to see.